Saturday Morning RPG. This is an old school turn-based RPG. It, like many other cheaply made RPGs, use pixel-based graphics, but this is done in a much more impressive way. It's not just small little pixels on a screen, they're actually quite large and expressive at times. The whole gimmick behind this is that you're playing as a character in a Saturday morning cartoon. The plots are crazy and the characters are modeled after like G.I. Joe, Transformers, and maybe Land of the Lost. I sure didn't get all the references, but I got most of them. I loved watching cartoons on Saturday morning when I was a kid, or even really as a teenager. I never missed out on an episode of The Real Ghostbusters, or Captain N, or even Turbo Teen, that really short-lived cartoon series. This game brought me back to those times and I loved the nostalgia in it. The whole time I was playing this, I kept thinking of the Costume Quest series. This game and that game could be cousins in style and feel. They both are turn-based RPGs with mini-games during the battle to keep things interesting. Plus, there are quite a few other similarities. Like all the games I review, I'm only going to show off the first third of the game. And unfortunately, that means only the first 2 episodes, since there are 5 episodes in the game. So sorry if there isn't a lot of variety in the gameplay footage, it couldn't be helped. You play as Marty, a kid who gets a magic trapper keeper, and he can use it to fight off the crazy villains around him. Really, the plot makes no sense, but it's a cartoon and it doesn't really need to. You often travel around to different locations. You're almost always free to return to any section that you want in the episode that you're in. So you're gonna have to fight the enemies around you. It was nice that the characters that you had to fight were just there waiting for you. There are no random fights, so you can technically avoid fights if you want sometimes. A lot of times the enemies are blocking the path, so you can't really avoid them, but there are optional areas to go to, so you could avoid them sometimes. However, you're gonna want to do these fights because you're gonna need the experience to level up, because this game is hard. Now let's get into the turn-based battling. You start off by scratching one of the few changeable scratch and sniff stickers. You rotate your left stick to scratch them, and if you succeed, you get boosts in battle from like more magic, hit points, or even status effects on the enemies that you're fighting. They show you on the top the turn list on who's going to go next, but it's not always accurate. Sometimes the enemies will go multiple times without changing to the next person. It was frustrating to depend on it, just to have it be wrong and need to take more damage than you thought you would have to. You have 3 options in battle. Charge up your attack, choose a weapon or status effect, or punch them. I kept having to charge up my character before ever using the weapons I had. Even when you get more powerful weapons, since they only give you 1 or 2 of a certain weapon, you're going to need to make sure you're powered up before you use it, or it might get wasted. The weapons that you bring into battle are also customizable. You can choose up to 5 items to bring in. Sometimes the weapons that you might have are ineffective against an enemy, so you're going to need to have different kinds on hand in case you run into that situation. Now I mentioned this game is hard, but it's not frustrating. The title will go out of its way to make sure any fights that you do are easily replayable, and there's no penalty for doing so. So if you think the battle is going poorly or you used all your best weapons and you just want to restart the battle, you can at any point. The difficulty can be changed in the options, and unbelievably they have a few options in this as well. You can set it to the player's level, a recommended level, or any level you want starting at 1. However, even at the easiest difficulty, it's still extremely hard. It feels like the battles are dragged out longer than they should. The battles became really repetitive at times, but you knew you had to keep doing it because you need the experience so you can level up. Plus, the enemies won't respawn, so you're going to need to fight everyone you possibly can. They did try and keep things lively by always refilling your hit points and magic every time you get into a battle, as well as all the items you've used, so you never have to worry about keeping your character healthy. In each of the episodes, there's quite a few extra side quests to do. You get experience points which can be used to level up your attack boost or give you more magic and defense. So you're going to want to do these side quests, because like I mentioned before, once the enemies are gone, they don't respawn, and this is the only way in the episode to level up. There's also an endless mode which is good for leveling up your character out of normal episodes. They only slightly refill your weapons and stats after every fight, so you're going to need to be careful on which weapon you use or how much magic you use up in a fight, because you might need it later. There's also an arena where you can fight bosses, but they are much more difficult versions of them. So if you're in for a challenge, go for it. But like I mentioned, the battles do drag on, so both of these options are not that appealing. Saturday Morning RPG was alright. It tried to make the game feel like you were playing a cartoon from the 80s, and it mostly succeeded. Graphically, it was a very good looking pixel art game, and it was quite funny at times. I do wish the battles didn't drag on, and in later episodes this becomes a real problem. Big worlds with too many fights. Now this is not a long game. Each episode takes about an hour to an hour and a half. Add in another half hour if you're doing the side missions. So with 5 episodes, this is about a 6 to 7 hour game. They're asking $9.99 for this, and for that price I do think it's worth a buy. Now like I mentioned, there are some side missions in this, so there is replayability for the episodes. And the level designs were quite fun to play through when you weren't fighting all the time. It's too bad the fights weren't streamlined. Somewhat minor complaints aside, I do think this is worth a buy.